Hey, it's David Heatley here from Cycling Inform, and today we're talking about FTP. Now, what does FTP stand for? It's functional threshold power, and why sometimes it's not cool to focus on your FTP. Now, a lot of cyclists get a little bit confused about FTP, and let me set the record straight with this one. FTP is a general overall measurement of our cycling fitness. Functional threshold power is your average power for 60 minutes. So if you go out and ride your bike flat out, like so hard that you're seeing stars for a whole hour, and the average power that you produce, that's your FTP number. Now, the reality is that most cyclists don't really want to go that hard to do an FTP test. So there's another way of doing our FTP test, and that is to do a 20-minute threshold test. So instead of going hard for a whole hour, we only go hard for 20 minutes, and then we take a percentage of that to work out our FTP. That's one of the AIS riders. They're all over the place here in Adelaide. It's awesome. So we use FTP in the applications that we use to analyze data. We configure our training analytical applications like training peaks and today's plan, and I think there's another one that's Cheetah, to make sure that the analytics that are coming out of those platforms accurately represent our general overall fitness. And we use it as a benchmark for things like TSS and CTL and ATL. Now, I'm not going to talk about that today because I'm talking about FTP. Now, with training platforms like Swift and Be Cool and one that Mike Kluke has put together, what was it? Full Gas. All right, those training platforms, we use our FTP to set the levels of intensity, so that the levels of intensity that we're doing our intervals and sessions at is based around our actual fitness. Now, this is where cyclists get it a little bit wrong. They think that they need to improve their FTP to be a better rider. It's kind of correct, but there's a few issues with that. Now, FTP, because it's your 60-minute threshold power, it doesn't take into account things like your ability to be able to manage surges and your ability to be able to ride longer rides like longer than 60 minutes. You know, the thing about the Peaks Challenge Falls Creek is that it's not about having a massively epic, huge FTP. It's about being able to sustain an average amount of power for a very long period of time, like, 8, 10, 13 hours, and being able to have enough endurance that when you get to the backside of falls, you can actually ride up it without having to get off your bike. One of my clients did a sub 830, fantastic, awesome. His average power for the ride, 180 watts. It was around 180 watts. Look, I think maybe 187. And the other thing is that with FTP is it doesn't take into account the fact that you need to punch through surges. Now, I've had riders that have really awesome FTPs, and yet they're not able to race very well because as soon as they go over threshold, they fall to bits, right? And cycle racing is all about the decisive moment. If you've ever had a look at your power data, it's like all over the place. Even your heart rate, it's like all over the place. So when you're riding a fast bunch rides, it's all about the ability to be able to surge. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's like you're either there, right, or you get blown out the arse. And a lot of it's not to do with your FTP, although having a good FTP helps. It's all about being able to punch up into higher power zones. So say your FTP is 250, but if you're unable to do like a 750 watt, tiny little effort, peak up into 750 watts or peak up into 650 watts, or maybe even do a slight, 550, or even, go over 300 just momentarily and do that over and over and over again, you're not going to stay with the fast bunch ride. Cool. All right, so it's been David Heatley here from Cycling Inform. Have an awesome time on your bike. Catch you soon. Keep it safe.